what we know indeed is true and is happening all around us, and that is that the future is Indigenous women. And with that said, it's my honor to introduce you tonight to someone who we all love and respect so much. She has been an inspiration, a supporter, and advocate to our communities, and we're especially grateful for the support she provided our organization to support Native women entrepreneurs and business owners last year through House Bill 461 in 2019, which enabled us to provide resources at a critical time, last year when the pandemic hit, which none of us saw coming. We were able to administer 132 $500 micro grants totaling $66,000 to New Mexico Native entrepreneurial families, and also invest over $12,500 into 8 Native women-owned businesses in New Mexico to contribute to our care package program last year, which included their authentic handmade products. On behalf of Native Women Lead, thank you to Representative Lewis. Without you, that wouldn't have been possible, and so we really just appreciate you championing and carrying that bill for us. And now I just want to share a little bit about Representative Lewis before we have her come on. As a lifelong New Mexican raised in her Pueblo, the Pueblo of Acoma, she is an attorney and 5-term state representative serving New Mexico's 26th House District since 2012. Currently, she is the federal general counsel for the Pueblo of Tesuque and also serves as a justice at the Pueblo de San Ildefonso Supreme Court. She began her career as an attorney with the Chestnut Law Offices, which serves as general counsel to the Pueblo of Acoma. And she has also served as executive director of the Athletic Gaming Regulatory Agency. And her undergraduate and law degree were earned from the University of New Mexico School of Law, where she's taught as an adjunct professor. Since becoming an attorney nearly 20 years ago, Georgine chose to practice law solely in New Mexico, and this was undertaken as a personal commitment to advocate for underserved communities. Last year, Conservation Voters New Mexico recognized her as their top environmental representative with the 2020 Luminaria Award. And among other awards, Georgine received the inaugural Achievement Award by the Indian Law section of the New Mexico State Bar and was named the Emerging Democratic Woman of the Year by Emerge New Mexico in 2013. Currently, she chairs the House State Government Elections and Indian Affairs Committee and co-chairs the Interim Indian Affairs Committee. During her tenure at the Roundhouse, she has sponsored over 59 bills and co-sponsored more than 70 pieces of legislation. She is also the secretary of the National Caucus of the Native American State Legislators and sits on the board of directors for the National Caucus of Legislators from Gaming States. And now she is running for a congressional district seat. District 1 seat representing New Mexico. And with that, is my pleasure and honor to introduce to you Representative Georgine Lewis. Welcome.
Thank you, Guatsi. It's so good to see everyone, new and long friends. So thanks for the introduction. I'm extremely glad to be here. I have supported Native Women Lead for a long time because I believe in your purpose and your goals. And I had the opportunity to attend one of your conferences, and I just thought it was done so brilliantly. So I love that there is support for Native women, especially in the spaces and the places where we're usually kept out, where those doors are closed. And every time we have a chance to put our foot in between the door and get in and offer our ideas and really get things done. I just love it. So I thank you again for the opportunity, and I hope that we can continue partnerships in the future. Again, just because I believe in the purpose that you all are organized to do and all the work that you have been putting your hearts and your minds and your sweats and your souls and your prayers into. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Representative. We're just so excited to have you on tonight, and just we're hoping that you could just share with us some of your story, just what inspired you to run for office. And, we just want to learn more about your journey. And so just if you could just share with us, we would love to hear all of it.
Great, thank you. So if you're considering running for office, please contact me and we can have a separate conversation. I'll try to be brief because I want to get through as many questions as you have. But I was actually teaching at UNM. I was an adjunct professor teaching federal Indian law. And of course, the students that take those are Native American students. And of course, when you read the Supreme Court opinions, where natives are called savages, we're referred to in the law as people that really don't deserve to stay alive. And they talk about genocide and assimilation, and really when we were learning about this in class, I would tell my students, look, we're having so many people make decisions about us. How many of these Supreme Court justices have visited a reservation or know what tribal sovereignty means, and how we continue our traditions, and really the purpose for our beings, including the protection and care for Mother Earth. So really, I would give them my spiel about this. I had like a whole semester to do that. So every time I would have the opportunity, I would tell them we need to infiltrate the systems. So we need to be those people that are sitting in the courtrooms making the decisions on the bench. We need to be the lawyers that are helping people move forward with their goals and their purposes. We need to be in the classrooms as professors, really just everywhere that we can be, because we're smart enough to do that. We have the passion to do it, and we will provide so much insight and just be capable of getting things done. So that was really when I was teaching, and then the opportunity came about for an open seat in Albuquerque, where I live, and it was due to redistricting and the growth on the west side. So after giving my students, all of this information, and folks were asking me to consider running for office, I just knew that I had to walk the walk. I knew that 11% of our state's population is made up of Native Americans, and that's not reflected in our state legislature. And even though we do have legislators in the Capitol, those are folks that come from majority tribal populations. So that's not my district, but my district is primarily Hispanic, but our needs are the same. And we all want, a safe community. We all want adequate health care. We all want quality education. So all of these things kind of came together. And really, that was the main force for running for office. I wanted to ensure that folks in the roundhouse look like us, that they have our lived experiences, and that we have a seat at the table when decisions are being made about us. And I tell people, it's always funny because normally we're doing all of this virtually right now, but normally you press a button when you go to vote, and it's like anyone can do that, a monkey can do that, like it's you're just doing this. But the significance of being one person out of 70 in the state that is able to cast a vote for issues that are important to all of New Mexican, or all of New Mexico and New Mexicans, is really, really significant. So I've just been so privileged and honored to be serving in my current capacity, and really moving on to running for office in the congressional level, ensuring that folks know that Deb's not a fluke. She never was a fluke. She worked so hard to be where she is, and she's educated, she's experienced, she's qualified, she's capable. All of these things about her, people are finally realizing and they're seeing. And now we're losing her voice. And as incredibly proud and happy that we are for her, she did so much in 2 years as, one of the first Native American women in Congress. And we can't let that momentum stop. We can't be losing seats. We need to be gaining seats. And so really that's where we are right now with the congressional race. And it's been really exciting, and we're gaining so much momentum. And I would really love to pick up where Deb left off, build on everything that she started, and really be that continuing voice for Indian country, for Native Americans, for people of color, for women, for single moms, like for people, all of these things that, I have those lived experiences of being. So, yeah, again, I hope that if you consider running for office, it's been a privilege of mine. It's not always easy, but really again just being able to join those conversations and tell your side of the story, and people actually believing you and listening to you and asking you for your advice in the legislature, which is happening to me. We need more of that to happen. We don't need people making decisions on our behalf, and we have some great allies, like no doubt about it, but we can be there ourselves. So um, that's kind of my spiel, and I'll stop there for now and answer any other questions.
Thank you, Georgine. Representative Lewis.
Georgine's fine.
I just had a question about, you mentioned that as we know, as Native women, these things aren't easy. It's no cakewalk. Can you share with us a little bit more about some of the challenges that you faced as a woman, as a mother, as a Native person, and how you overcame those, and what motivated you to keep going?
So, it's been not the easiest path. I think a lot of people know I had my daughter when I was a sophomore in high school, and she became my motivation to succeed because now I was taking care of this beautiful child, and I knew that I wanted good things for her. And so she's always been so significant in my life, my family, my community, our tribal leadership. Everyone has been super encouraging. I mean, I know, even right now, Governor Vile's been doing so much work to help out the campaign, and I'm just so grateful for that. But of course, that doesn't come without outside challenges. That doesn't come without people judging you by the way you look. And one prime example, well, let me give you two. One as a lawyer, where, fortunately, I worked with some great mentors, both, well, I consider like two or three of them, white men. And two of them told me, don't let anyone ever believe that you're a paralegal. Don't let them believe you're my assistant. So make sure that you introduce yourself immediately. And as soon as someone puts their hand out, you say, I'm Georgine Lewis. I'm a lawyer with the firm. So it's just kind of putting it out there to try and, deflect any of those stereotypes that folks might have that only white men are lawyers. So that's kind of one lesson. But another thing that happened to me as a freshman legislator going into the House, and being so happy and proud that we were able to get that far, is there's a house lounge in the chamber. So it's right outside the House chamber, and it's only for House members. It's, well, for legislators. So you can be a senator, you could be a representative, and you go in there. And that first week, I would get stopped. And so, the sergeant at arms would tell me, okay, excuse me, I'm sorry, this is only for legislators. And so again, hi, I'm Georgine Lewis. I'm a new state representative. It's nice to meet you. But because folks aren't used to seeing someone that looks like me, I'm pretty dark complected, dark hair woman. And so it's again, just breaking those stereotypes and being proud about who we are. And I think, one of the things that my campaign team was hassling me about earlier is like, Georgine, you did these things. Like, why don't people know about it? And it's basically because I don't know if it's a Pueblo thing or a woman thing, or, like, I don't know, but we're not taught to say, I did this, I did that. It's not like something we do to brag about our accomplishments. But I don't know. I mean, I think sometimes when people are saying we're not qualified enough or experienced enough or smart enough or whatever enough, then we can show them that we've accomplished a lot. And it's sometimes tough because people will judge you by the way you look and not what's inside your head or the words that come out of your mouth. So it's always just really important to be pretty assertive when you're first introducing yourself. And in the state legislature, fortunately, folks will ask me if there's a bill about Native Americans or tribes. They look to me as, the expert. And I've been able to kill some bad bills because I will speak up and say, this is bad for tribes, this is bad for our economies, and they trust me. And I love it, but it didn't come right off the bat. It's, consistently reminding people that our experiences, our education, our networks, like everything that is inside our hearts is important, and that we're going to work hard to ensure that our traditions and our language and everything that's sacred is protected. And at the same time, what you all do is provide opportunities and pipelines and networks to share and care for one another so that we can all be successful, because that's how it needs to be. We can't be pushing each other down or saying anything negative. It's like, let's just all get there together, because so much of it has been trying to eliminate us and put us behind closed doors, put tape over our mouth, like whatever it is. So I hope that folks do remember that, especially women, but really the encouraging that our tribes have shown us. I think that needs to be then shared with everyone. And I've been really, really fortunate to have had that support in my life, and I hope to pay it back much, much, much more times than I've received it, because we have so many deserving and capable people that can help with our purposes, and these will be our future leaders.
I'm just curious, what would be your advice to any women here that might be considering running, whether at a city council, tribal council, as kind of like a first step?
So I think my first piece of advice would be to get involved. So attend those meetings. If you want to run for school board, attend those meetings, learn about the issues. I also participated in Emerge New Mexico. Emerge New Mexico is a program that educates Democratic women about how to run for office. And so I actually participated with that organization in 2010. And then 2 years later, that's when the seat became available. But when I was participating in the program, I thought, once I move home to Acoma and, kind of get settled, then I'll run for office there. But that's, I think first, participate in the meetings, learn about the issues, but then also just tell people, hey, I'm interested in running for Secretary of State. I'm interested in being a state senator. And I think the more you tell people and the more you hear it in your head and you'll find that people will say, great, let's talk about this. How can we fundraise? How can we get you out there? Like, how can we make things happen? So if you're thinking it, like, don't dismiss it, because all of you can provide so much valuable input at all of those levels. You know, Secretary of State, school board, water association, whatever it is. I think we should have someone on our Albuquerque City Council with the amount of Native Americans we have in Albuquerque. Why aren't we doing that? So again, infiltrate all of the systems, and get our voices heard, get our issues addressed. So don't ever dismiss it. Talk about it. Learn about it. I will be happy to talk to anyone that's interested in running for any office. And I don't know much about the school board, but I know people that do, and I can put you in touch with them, and we can have these conversations. And I would just love, love, love if folks would come to me and say, I need your help. Let's do this. So I want people to participate. I want to see more of us represented in those positions of decision making, those tables of decision making, and those positions of power. Yeah, we're actually going to release a video for the campaign that I'm super excited about. I didn't write it, but it's about, sometimes you got to take power. Power is never going to be given to you. So then you take it. You take it and you empower others.
My name's Reina. I am a farmer here in Albuquerque, and recently I was asked to be part of a roundtable discussion with the Secretary for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and never done anything like that before. And maybe just some tips or um, something that will help me kind of prepare or make that big impact for young farmers here in New Mexico, and like indigenous and people of color farmers is kind of what I'm hoping that I'll come across more eloquent before I don't know, I'm just kind of a little bit scared.
Well, congratulations. I think that's great. I'm sure you're going to do fantastic. So stay involved. I mean, I think really just asking people like, hey, I understand you served on this board before, or you're serving now. Like, what do you anticipate that I need to know about whatever topic? Or talk to folks in the farming community to say, what issues are out there that perhaps have been outstanding that no one's ever addressed? Like, what do we need to address it? So I know this firsthand that, like, I'm never the smartest person in the room. Like, I don't have all of the answers. And so I just ask, and people will talk to you. Sometimes they might talk to you too long, and then you'll be sorry you asked. I'm kidding. But I mean, just don't be afraid to say, I'm interested in learning more. Perhaps I don't know as much about this issue as you do. Like, are there any resources you can guide me to? Are there any people that you think I should talk to? And really just have that communication, and don't be afraid to ask for help, because you'll learn a lot. And then you'll find out soon that after a while, people will be asking you those questions and trying to know what you know and figure out how you learned it. So yeah, that I would just do that. I'm always constantly asking folks for their positions on different things, their opinions, their concerns, and really taking their input and thinking about it, and asking people smarter than me, like, hey, why hasn't this been done before? People have been talking about this for 5 years, and really trying to figure out how to navigate those waters, and then next figure out how to then actively take action and just be as efficient and effective as possible. So yeah, congratulations. I think that's great. And I'm glad you accepted it. And I wish you all the best.
So some of the things I've been thinking about in terms of women, Native women, and women of color running for these offices and these seats is, how do we help support women who want to do this, but also have like good businesses or have good jobs, right? Like half the challenge is like, you want to find really great talent, you want to find people who want to do this work, but also that process of like, how do you make decisions being like, I've got a great job, or, in my mind, I'm like, we can't lose a single Indigenous business owner. Our Indigenous business owners need to be out there. They need to be building the things they're building. What is the way for us to sort of balance that hard decision making of suddenly moving into a political space where, we're going to have opponents, people are going to be really looking at who you are. So I'm just wondering, like, how did you make that decision to just decide to dive in? And also, is there better ways for us to care for ourselves to make those decisions to run? And so I'm just wondering if you can share how you found the answers to questions you had before running, how you've dealt with like that sort of process of your own like legal practice, your own body of work, balancing this body of work. Because I feel like that for me has been always the question, which is, do I have enough to give? I want to, but is it the right time? So I don't know if it's a big old messy question. If you can provide any insight, that would be great.
Yeah, that's a great question, especially because our legislature is the last unpaid legislature in the nation. And if you accept that it's okay to have wealthy or retired people representing us in the legislature, then that concept is fine. But it's not. It's not fine at all. We need our representation to reflect who we are, which is, a diverse body of folks in New Mexico, women, people of color, people that don't have a lot of money because we're a poor state. So it's extremely difficult to find that balance. If I wasn't a lawyer, if I was a teacher, a business owner, you guys are working your butts off. I don't know that it would be possible, but I think at the end of the day, just trying to carve out as much as you can, and sometimes it's exhausting and it's frustrating, and you want to give up, but still there's that lack of representation that you want to be able to control, and you want to be able to have that seat at the table. It's really important to have a strong support system. I think that's what helps. So whether that's your family, whether that's a group of friends, your colleagues, whoever those people are, to let them know, hey, I might need some help here. It's not shameful to ask for help. And I think a lot of people will step up to help you. I honestly don't know what that means in terms of businesses, because I know you guys work so hard creating your own business and maintaining it and trying to promote it and expand it. But I do believe that if you ask for help, you'll be really surprised at how many people want to help you, to the extent that you can balance that. Also, again, with the legislature, because we meet on even years at 30 days and then odd years for 60 days, to be able to be away from work for that long of a time is not realistic in some professions. So then maybe perhaps going to city council, where you're not going to be gone for 60 days, or being on the school board. So finding that balance too, not only in terms of your profession, but also in the commitment of time and energy that it takes to be involved in politics. There's some great ways to get in that doesn't take as much time. Sorry, I'm almost done with session. So if you find those, participating in your ward, participating, like we were trying to get folks engaged to run for the state central committee, that's a foot in the door, that's networking, so that then when you're ready, maybe in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, whatever it is that you find your business or your profession is at the right place to, take a little time away from it, then you will already have made those networks and connections, and you probably will have learned a lot. So, like, there's so many levels that you can get involved in. So again, it's just trying to figure out which ones will fit your time wise schedule and your commitment away from your business. But definitely, I know that if you told folks, hey, in 5 years, I think I want to run for county assessor or for secretary of state or for attorney general, you're going to have folks behind you. They'll say, okay, when that occurs, sign me up and let me know how I can help.
So, Georgine, Representative Lewis, I'm really interested in, like, when you find yourself in one of those rooms where it's like you're the only person who looks like you, what is that narrative, or like, what are you saying to yourself in your head that helps you step into that power and kind of outside of, like, for me, it's imposter syndrome. So I'm always really curious what other powerful women like do and say.
So we had a really great, we're having these breaking bread episodes. So if you get a chance, join them. Last night was amazing. We had women of color, and we actually talked about this. So we talked about imposter syndrome, which I admit I had. Like, when I was a new lawyer, I was like, oh my God, like, people are going to find out that I don't know this. And like, it was just terrible. And I think we have to figure out how to not let others have that by encouraging them and by telling them we're going to be there to support them. I don't know. I don't know how you address that, because I had it. So, Angel, don't do that. I know you don't do that. But when I'm in a room and I'm the only person that looks like me and people are talking about issues, what I have learned to think about is, how do I educate these people on this issue that I know? Because I know some things they don't. And so now I have to speak up and let them know this is what I think. And they can't tell me that what I think is wrong, because what I think is based on my experiences. And if they tell you you're wrong, that's when you have to be, super assertive. Excuse me. You don't know what it's like to grow up on the reservation. Excuse me. You don't know how it feels to be a single mom. All of these things. So just being able to know and believe that everything you've done, and I know you, Angel, and you shouldn't have imposter syndrome, and I shouldn't have had it when I was a new lawyer, but we get over it. And I just hope that we can teach folks not to do that, and really know that when you are assertive and when you do say, excuse me, let me tell you how it is, and don't get upset. Just be very conversational, and I that's the approach I've taken, and it seems to work. And people will appreciate that you're providing them an insight that maybe they're not aware of. And if they don't, then that says more about them than it says about you. So you just always have to, again, realize that your education, your experiences, your passions, like, all of that's important. And no one should be able to take that away from you. But you also need to inform people about that. And I think once you teach them, then people do come around, and then they'll be like, oh, I can't say that because I was scolded last time, and they kind of get like, I don't want to sound dumb now. So you kind of flip it on them. No, don't ever doubt yourselves. Again, no one has all the answers, even the people that pretend to. And everything that we've learned and we've lived is super important. And sometimes it's challenging, because this is one of the examples that we had last night, where this woman was working with all Pueblo men and they weren't listening to her. And then if that's the case, you ask them, hey, what's you you're paying me to do this. Did the job description change? Do you need me to do something different? And, just really put it back at them and question how they need to work with you to like figure things out. It's just being more assertive and trying to say, I'm going to work with you. I just need to know how we need to work together. Like, what's the best approach we can do for this? So
That's awesome. I love that. That's incredible advice. I had a question about just, it was also from our questions that we had gotten but about self care. And, you mentioned balance earlier, just so important. We were wondering, what do you do for self care? With everything that you're holding and doing, how do you take care of Georgine?
Oh, yeah. And as women, I think it's tougher for us to concentrate on self-care. I've been really terrible lately. I haven't been running. I scheduled massages that I canceled. I just don't eat right sometimes, but I'm trying to get better. But I think the most self-care that I am committed to is really being with family and being with friends. And I feel that when I'm exhausted and I'm frustrated and like I'm near tears, that just being with them, just relieves a lot of that. And then we're reminded of why we're doing the work, why we're putting in the time and the energy and the tears sometimes. And it's just like, oh, yeah, that's how I started my daughter, or, my mom, like she's on the reservation and I know, in 20 years, she's going to need more help. And it's just like, these are the people that we do it for. And so that's been my biggest self-care, but I do need to have more exercise in my life, and having good friends too is really important to make you laugh and laugh till you cry.
I'll be honest, like that is pretty much why Native Women Lead came together. We were all trying to like create businesses. We were all trying to build something. And when you leave the comfort of your tribe, your Pueblo, your nation, or you leave the comfort of like your friends and family circle, you will probably, especially if you're working to build something, be the only Indigenous woman for like a 10-mile radius, maybe bigger. So it's like, it's exhausting, right? Because you have to represent all Native people. You have to deal with patriarchy. You have to also be overlooked and not asked for your expertise. So you have to be more assertive. So I feel like Native Women Lead kind of came together as a result of our own personal exhaustion. We were so tired trying to hold these spaces and code switching back and forth. And then also having to make excuses for why we needed to step out because of our children, why we had to like that. Really, it came together because it was like, why are we trying so hard to fit this mold that was never designed for us, that was never meant for us, and has actually kept us out of everything? Why are we trying to sit at those tables when really the table of like replenishing, of like support is in the sisterhood here? So I'm listening to you and I'm thinking about Angel's question. I'm thinking about how your recommendation is like leaning into family, like leaning into the people who care for you. I mean, obviously the physical self-care, I'm working on that, is not there yet. But that idea of leaning into the space that embraces you and the space that's designed for you, that's like where I see, and where what's so exciting, what you're doing, what Deb has done, what Charisse has done, and so many more Indigenous women who are running in for political office at all levels are doing, is they're making that space safe for us. It's making it braver for us to see ourselves there. So I just want to name like how important that is, and you talking about self-care in that safe space. And so I guess my question to all of that is like, I don't even know if it's a question. It's maybe just like, I just want to like virtually hug everybody and be like, we're going to get through this. We're in this like critical race right now. There's so much in front of us. Like, what would you say if you could tell your younger Georgine self, knowing what you know now, knowing that like there is a ladder, there is a pathway forward, there's more representation than ever. What would you say to yourself then that you wish you had known because now you're in this position. You're in a position of power and influence. You are a true leader. Just wondering, like, what is that advice to this like young Indigenous person or this Indigenous woman who finally is ready to lean into that new power? Like, what do you wish you had known, but know now?
My brother passed away when he was only 21 years old. So I think I learned that lesson early. I learned that lesson early that I don't have to be the smartest person in class. I don't have to be the lawyer that's bringing in multi-million-dollar lawsuits. I want people to not remember Georgine, was so great at being a lawyer, or Georgine was, so good at school. Spending time with people that you care about and staying connected with the people that you love and the people that will always be there for you is really important. That's why I think it's always been super important for me to stay close to my family. I haven't moved anywhere else in New Mexico. I moved to Albuquerque only because I couldn't do the 1 hour commute each way when I was going to law school. And I didn't want to move my daughter away from my family. Like, that was not an option. So I would call my mom and my sister and my daughter and mandate, like, at least one family dinner a month, because that's so important. You're going to have so many haters, especially when you're doing well. I think that's all too typical, unfortunately. But when you're at your worst and the people that surround themselves around you and want to help you and want to help your children and want to help the people you love, like, those are the folks that are really important. And now, because of the opportunities that I've had, I now have friends that I consider family, have a vision like you guys do with Native Women Lead, to say, this is our vision, and we recognize that it's different and it's probably better, but I'm sure you guys don't say that, but it's a different vision, and we're going to give it our all, and we're going to be there to support one another instead of focusing on the bad and the negative, or focusing on comparing yourself to whoever it is. Let's disregard that, and let's work together, and let's build our communities. If people aren't accepting us, let's do what you did and start a great organization and really be there for one another and support one another.
Thank you, Georgine. That was exactly, I think, what I was curious about. And also, I think we need to hear that and remind ourselves those things, because it's so easy to also get caught up. And it's so easy to forget that a North Star is a direction. It's sometimes not the goal. Else the journey is part of it, right? Like, and who you bring into that journey, and how do you not cause harm that was harm to you, but you don't do that harm back. So I just want to say thank you, because I think of Native women in leadership. I think of Native women in political leadership. I know you're all bringing this other part with you that is hard to explain. Jamie, we talk a lot about our women being the culture bearers, caretakers, and really kind of the heart of like the fire. And so we know that's what you're thinking about when you're up there, and you said it. I just want to say thank you.
Okay, so oftentimes I feel like we, or me, I'll just speak from my experience, don't highlight enough the work that we do and what we're proud of. So wanted to give you that time to share what you're most proud of in your work as it relates to the political leadership you've stepped in, and what's been your impact.
Thank you. And again, it's kind of hard to focus on those accomplishments. When I was first elected in office, I was the vice chair of a really powerful committee, which is the House Judiciary. And I was the House parliamentarian. So if there was a decision that was being disputed, or any kind of conflict that arose on the floor, they would look to me to decide how that was going to occur. Never having this idea growing up, like I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, but I never thought I'd be a politician. Like that never crossed my mind. And then to be a freshman and to be able to step into those positions, and now being the chair of state government elections and Indian affairs and the co-chair of Indian affairs, again, I really trust and love that leadership sees that, this Pueblo girl that grew up on the res, and now they look to me to say, like, hey, like, how is this issue going to affect tribes? Like, what does this mean for Native American people? And when I speak, they listen. And so I think I'm really grateful for that, and I am proud that they do that, because not everyone can say that. Not everyone can say, the Speaker of the House is going to look to them for advice on how to handle an issue. I'm super grateful for that, and with that, that also comes a large responsibility, but I always do it to the extent that I'm looking out for our tribes, I'm looking out for our tribal people, and again, always just having like my mom in the back of my head and my daughter in the back of my head. That's like, how is this going to affect them?
Hi, I'm Lauren. Thanks everyone for having me in the space. I'm just curious, what do you need, and how can we be helpful at this point? If there's a way that we can support, I want to just make sure that you feel comfortable sharing that with us.
Thank you, Lauren. It's so nice to meet you. One of the cool things that we're doing this weekend is I told you about the Breaking Bread series that we have, but we got that off Breaking Bad. So Breaking Bad, Breaking Bread, and so we're sending them an invitation with oven bread. Well, because we can't gather because of the pandemic, it's not safe. And normally we would be having conversations in person and breaking bread and, feeding our souls and talking and feeding our minds. And so this Sunday, we're getting 170 loaves of bread. So if you're available to help deliver that in a COVID safe way, we're asking for volunteers to help with that. And really also the other thing that is probably the easiest if you don't have the time or you can't take time off is sharing our messages on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, and letting folks know that there is a Native American woman that's qualified to be in Congress and will be ready to start on day one because of my legislative experience, because of my experience as a lawyer. We're working on all cylinders. We have a great team. Cindy Nava is fantastic. We have someone from Deb's camp, Jason Perkey. So we just really have a great team. If you decide to volunteer, you'll probably be working with Alejandro. He's fantastic too. I hope I covered it all, but Cindy can call her and hook up with her and Alejandro, and they can tell you more ways, but I think I covered all of that. But thank you. I really, really, really appreciate it. And again, anyone is ever thinking about running for office or going to law school, contact me, and I'd love to talk with you and figure out how we can help. Those pipelines are important, and I want to ensure that folks have every opportunity that they need to succeed.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful note to end on, and I feel like we could sit here all night and talk. We were just getting to the good stuff, Especially, I think we all appreciated you really opening up to us tonight and being vulnerable. I think that's one of the greatest signs of a really strong person. So thank you so much for that. When you spoke of your brother, my heart skipped a beat, like I'm sure all of ours did, and just started shooting love to you like the little Care Bears do.
We're in a community of women that I trust and women that I know have good intentions. And I did want to be honest with you and share that. But again, it's only because I felt like I'm in a safe space. So I thank you for that.
Thank you very much. And just sending love to you. We appreciate you so much. And I want to thank you all for attending as well. And of course, follow her Breaking Bread series, which is awesome. We hope you all can join us for our next Transformation Thursdays retreat, which will be on April 1st, where we'll discuss the Equality Can't Wait Challenge. We were very fortunate to be named in the top 10. And so super exciting times for us. And we'd love to just share that with you, with community, and get some of your thoughts on all of that, and share the good news. We just hope you all have a good rest of the evening, and thank you so much for your time and energy. Love you all.